News alert. Here we go. This is it. Breaking news.
You are a neat guy.
Oh, Martin, I'm going to need 2 kegs for my big ass.
Straight into topless hugging, Aaron. You ready?
Welcome to another episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Cook, along with Grant Hutchison and Martin Goodwin-Sharman. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we'll be chatting with indie rock sensations The National, and we're going to wrap things up with some listener questions. But first, this is our first recording since, what can I say, the UK's, maybe the world's most important event. It's the Bristol Cider Salon. And most importantly, it was the first time that Martin, Grant and I have all been together in the flesh in, 2 years probably since the last Cider Salon. And what a glorious moment it was.
We've had some secret fleshy meetings excluding Grant, but
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that much.
That's, I've realised.
I know, that gets me upset.
Yeah, that's just not good.
But first thing, seeing you, Grant, I realized, I remembered, like, I didn't even shake your hand or anything. I was like, and you were like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know how to meet people.
Well,
yeah, I know.
It wasn't just the first time that, the three of us had been together. It was the first time I'd been in a room with that many people.
Wow.
Like, and that many different people. And in it, again, I think everyone's sort of, doing the mask thing anyway, but Scotland's a little bit different, and you don't have to wear a mask down in England, and it was just, and the weirdest thing was, like, I didn't really know what to do, like you just said, Martin, when you met people. It was like, are we shaking, are we hugging? And then there was that thing of, like, have seen you on a screen for the past, like, 18 months in different capacities, but we've never met. That's fucking weird. So many times. Ryan, actually, from Caledonian said, I thought you were taller.
I thought you were shorter. So...
Oh, you did say that to me.
Yeah.
He wasn't the shape I thought he was. He looks more like a rugby lad. Like, I genuinely was looking at him and he was like, I'm going to do his accent. Martin.
Oh,
no,
right. Ryan.
Yeah, he was like, Martin. I was like, are you? Like, what? And there were a few people that I met and I was like, you're talking rubbish, mate. That's not your Ed. Like, I've sent you memes for a year. That's not who I've been sending them to, is it? Also, I realised I don't know if I always have been, but I was, like, criminally anxious. Like, someone came up to me and asked me a question. I couldn't even speak. I was like, I love the pod. And I was like,
What? Did you use just, like, naming other podcasts?
I shut down and went, yeah. And that was like it. And Hannah was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I can't recover now. I've just, like, squealed. That was all I did. So anyone that met me and went, what? No, like, I am sorry. I'm aware and I'm really sorry.
There was a lot of love for the Neutral Cider Hotel. I got accosted by somebody on the stairs who said, I like your podcast. I'm like, oh, thank you. Yes, very good. And there were no dings. There was not one ding.
I thought a ding or a bong. I thought you'd hit a one bong in the Cider Salon, Gabe.
A bong?
Yeah, like bong.
I thought you'd hit a bong at the Cider Salon.
I'm not quite sure what.
I know, that's
going around with a little.
It was very warm in there, but I'm not quite sure whether that was anything. It was a bit sweaty.
That's one thing I'd say next year. Open the windows, probably.
Well, it's a church. How do you open stained glass windows, Martin? That's all I'm going to say to you. Although, actually, apparently you could open if you were very, very tall, which might be helpful if you had very long arms, possibly.
Yes.
I wonder.
The best thing, I got a text the next day from Sam from Wilding, not Wildling, saying a couple of people made a comment to Becky about my arms, which I think is a Neutral Cider Hotel reference. And now I'm trawling through the back catalogue to find the joke. So I think the problem with that is he showed his hand and was like, well, I've not listened to him.
Yeah.
So I was like immediately like, well, serves you right. Like, but
Absolutely. Shame on you, Sam.
Maybe he caught on late. It was quite early on, right?
It was very early on.
But I just like that a throwaway joke in a lockdown a year ago has affected someone professionally, where customers go up to him and ask about the length of his. It wasn't even his.
It's not him. It's not him. That's the best thing about it. I was trying to, when you sent that you sent us the screenshot of Sam's text, and I was telling Jay, and I was like, I couldn't even remember the story of the arms and exactly what it was and how it came about, and even what the joke was. But it was still hilarious.
It quickly, as a recap, it was one where it was an old throwaway pub joke where if someone says, "Oh, is Johnny here?" or like, and you don't know, you go, "The one with incredibly long forearms," because no one says no, which is like it's just a weird like social thing where they're afraid to disagree. But I'd confused wilding and wildling. Gabe pointed it out. And it wasn't like a pre-written joke or anything like that. So I just flustered and went to like, go to the pub joke and just lie. And now it's stuck. So sorry, Wildling and Wilding, or either or.
And everybody else in the whole universe. We're all really, really
sorry for everything.
Well, generally.
Talking about long arms, that's not a link to how many good cider makers there were at the event. But yeah, we'll jump in. But I've got the list in front of me here, and the ones that stood out as like ones that we haven't talked about properly on the show. Gould cider from Cornwall. I mean, their Perry, I was literally shitting myself with how good it was. It was insanely good, and I want more of that. Bowl Hayes, who we've had, I think we've mentioned, but are lovely. Rural Orchard, Smith and Hain. Oh my God, their stuff was just cotton candy, beautiful. Artist Straw, that was the first time I tried them. Butford Organics that I've had before, but were delicious. Good to see Hogan's. And Mills Brewing as well, the one token brewer, like just beautifully picked.
When you say token brewer, it also happens to be the highest rated brewer on Untapped as well. That's how the cider salon rolls. You see, if we're going to let's get a brewer. Who should we get? Let's get the best brewer in Britain, everybody. Let's get
the guy that can only sell one bottle per customer because he's so in demand. And let's pair him with the equivalent cider maker at said event. And let's put Grant opposite them. And watch all the people crowding around.
You must have seen a lot of nice backs and bottoms of that event.
I did, but then it was quite good. We were kind of like the overflow parking for Tom and Johnny. It was like, there's a big queue there. Well, let's go and see this guy. Yeah. But no, unfortunately, but I was pouring for Eves and Eden and Ancho, and Jay was pouring for Brutes. So we didn't actually get a chance to go around and try any of the ciders. I went after it had closed, after it had left, I went to see James at Little Pomona, and we got shouted at for pouring a glass by one of the bouncers.
I saw. I watched that and I ran off and I needed to pee. So I had to sneak back in to pee. I was like, we're getting told off.
Yeah, I sort of ran off as well. James ran.
It wasn't me.
The very large burly man was actually kind of acting effectively on my orders. I did feel this incredible surge of adrenaline, of this crazy power flowing through me of... Yeah, it's
no. I mean, the guy was just doing his job.
Rules is rules.
He didn't
rules
need to be
rules.
a dick. Yeah.
But as well, everyone, you try telling like a room full of people that haven't seen other human beings for a year properly, with all the best ciders in the UK right now, and a limited time to drink them. I'm just so glad that I didn't get so drunk I ended up in the toilets. That's did myself proud.
I would like to apologise for everybody's perforated eardrums. The PA system wasn't working, so I was given quite literally like a loud hailer, was having to walk around. I mean, I got quite a loud voice anyway, but it was just extra booming and voluminous, like directly in people's ears.
You were strutting as well. Like you did like a full hip walk. You were like, nice. They can't see, but you were like, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, nice to see that walk. It was so good. You looked like you were in charge. I was like, he looks like he's in 6-inch heels, proper strutting.
Oh, makes me feel quite good. Thanks, Martin.
What did you try, Gabe, that you particularly enjoyed?
Oh, there was a lot of good stuff. The range of products from Nightingale was noted by a number of people as being like a real kind of like a step change or a step beyond. There was some really interesting stuff and cool, fun branding too. So well done, Sam and the team. Also interesting. My very first time I've ever tasted a Ukrainian cider from Berrylands.
Oh yeah,
their co-ferment with Cabernet Franc grapes. I thought was really quite fun and fruity. Also, very tasty was from Mr. Oliver, the third iteration of La Saison des Poires, which originated as an idea that's something that I had a vague involvement in. I think I made a cup of tea whilst like the actual work was happening, but he's very sweetly put my name on the back label. I'm not quite sure why.
Has he?
It's for the cachet. It's the sales pitch. You're talking about it now. This is the whole reason.
God, I don't know why he's done this. About me, but no, it's all about him. Isn't he a very clever businessman?
So was he pouring that?
He was, yeah.
Wow.
That was the primary reason, Grant, why everybody was on the table opposite. Nothing to do with all of the other amazing drinks that were there. I really enjoyed the ciders from Christian Stolte at the Wee Scottish Cider Company. That was fun as well. Ryan ciders from Caledonia were fantastic. Bushel and Peck were pouring a great new series of blends and single varieties too. Lots of good fun stuff down there. Awesome people. Big, Bushel and Peck, Gould, you mentioned them, Martin. These are the people who really, for me, sort of come to the fore in 2020 and into 2021. They're really, really awesome.
It was so lovely hanging out with Helen and Blair at the cider box and watching you dance, Martin, was pretty good fun.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. And I saw it on Instagram the next day.
You were doing that specific dance quite a lot. Like we would all just be standing there, and all of a sudden you would just start doing it. It's like, okay, he's gone again.
I felt like at that time, like if a kind of a cheap car sales, like wavy guy was on DMT, I was like, I am just like I love this. I'm around people I really care about. And as well, I mean, I've said it then, but Cider Jim, who was a guest on the show when Grant didn't turn up.
Oh, Cider Jim.
And Gemma apple cider per day. Just seeing people like that, in flesh, but also just drinking the best cider with the best cider people. Come on, fuck it! It doesn't get better than that, does it? Like it was just wonderful. So yeah, everyone that made that day, thank you so much, because it just I might have been nervous around seeing other human beings, but just it was beyond heartwarming to be there.
I think my favorite bit was a very sweet bit right at the very end, when virtually everybody had gone, and there was a couple who were sort of sat on the wall and just sort of started having a chat to them, and they said, "Oh, hi, Gabe," and I didn't know them, and what can I say? They recognised me from the telly.
Oh,
no,
from the telly, and he said, "Gabe, would you?" Slightly terrified. Would you try my cider?
Oh,
wow!
So I was like, all right. So they live at Long Ashton, where the research facility was, and they live on Pear Avenue. They're number 42. Lovely couple. They leave the
Did you just dox
under
them?
the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, sorry. I'm really joking. Please, nobody go to 42 Pear Tree Avenue. I really don't know. And so we tried the Perry. Very nice. Very clean. And then he gave some Kingston Black. That was really good too. And then there was a Harry Masters jersey, and that was really good. I was like, this is really, really good. And he was like, Gabe, you've made my day. I'm quite literally a rocket scientist. I've worked with NASA. I work all over the world, but that's one of the best things that's ever happened. I'm like, okay, thank you very much. I'm glad that I have made your day just by saying your Harry Masters jersey is very, very nice. I've forgotten the gentleman's name, Mr. Rocket Scientist, who works at various places.
There can't be many rocket scientists with cider hobbyists. Yeah, but does he make cider?
No, Elon's a twat.
No, but he is named. But he is named after a smell. So there we go. So he's got something going on.
But how does it feel to? I guess this is a double prong question, but like we talk about Grant with the band and that kind of celebrity. If you're on the outside of it, is mind blowing. But that was like a cider nerd event for cider nerds. And you're like the personality of cider for a lot of people. And you're also very forthcoming and open and up to chat. How was it being for you just chatting to people about cider? Did you have that feeling that they were like, it's Gabe from Ding, here's the book? Like,
not really, because I don't think that actually many people come and approach. No. Not that many people actually care. Not that many people actually are particularly kind of forthcoming because they're nervous or they don't want to like appear to be, oh God, I don't want to. Probably like we are with the people that we really admire, whether it be, the wonderful guys from The National, for example.
Don't talk about their music,
Martin.
No.
So I mean, the level that it happens to me about 3 times a year is like, that's cool, that's fine. It's if you reach a particular peak of fame, then then the constant must be the tough.
No, but I meant as in like you're at that kind of apex for it. So it's like Grant being at a Frightened Rabbit gig is different to Grant being spotted out and whatever.
Okay.
But it's the Cider Salon, and I heard people going, that's Gabe. I was like, Martin's here, so why aren't you?
But I didn't recognize you unless you laughed, Martin.
I was going around going, I chortled at the Cider Salon. I didn't know how.
But I don't hear that. So it doesn't mean anything to me because I don't hear it. I just carry on doing whatever. So,
but then I guess it was like, and not to bring you down a peg, but like, but this was these people had access to all the cider celebrities.
Of course.
Like you could go up and like Tom Oliver would pour you a glass of his cider, like, and James from Little Pomona and Susanna from Little Pomona would pour you their cider, like that. If you were walking around getting selfies with everyone, you'd be there all day and you wouldn't drink any cider.
So I did last time.
Yeah, of course.
I managed to drink as well, so it can be done.
But that was another thing that's so special about that event, and I guess maybe the cider industry in general. The at the moment there are none, if very few, egos. And that means it's exciting, and it's fun, but also really accessible.
Well, one of the best artifacts for me waking up in the morning was finding I hadn't taken really any photos. And Hannah was like, oh, what? And it's like, I was just having a wonderful time with people. And that's one where usually there's loads of like, oh, let's do this and do this. And that was just like, try wonderful drinks. And I can say this hand on heart, I didn't have a bad fucking drink. Every drink I was like, this is great. If not, it's really good for what it is. It's not what I wanted or whatever. But I didn't have one where I was like, this tastes crap. Everything tasted wonderful. Everyone I had a drink with was wonderful. And I just woke up being like, fuck, it's gone. That's gone so quickly. So yeah, to have those kind of fleeting moments as opposed to this fucking 6 years ago, Gabe as well. Like fucking, I dream of that for cider. I fucking dare you. So props to all of you who actually set it up.
Wow. As a minor part of that, I will take all of the credits. Thank you very much. All right, there we go. That's going to wrap it up for our overview of the Cider Salon 2021. Now let's get on to our big interview with Aaron and Scott from the National. Okay, everybody, here it is now. It's time for our big interview this week. And we have got some special guests. Grant, who are we speaking to today?
Joining us tonight, we have 2/5 of one of the most successful indie rock bands in the world, who took the long route to success with the age-old approach of touring relentlessly and writing music that they loved. They've worked with artists including Justin Vernon, Sufjan Stevens, and most recently Taylor Swift, but we finally answered all their calls to appear on Neutral Cider Hotel. Please welcome to the hotel Aaron Dessner and Scott Devendorf of The National. Woo! Hello, guys. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are we?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Where are you, Aaron? Where are you? Tell us where you are.
I'm in southwestern France near the I'm right on the Spanish border near San Sebastian because my brother lives here, and then I came to see him, and we spent part of the summer down here. And I apologize, the internet's a little slow, hence if my voice is breaking up.
Don't worry about that. I think people, the editing is so good that people will not even notice what's going on.
He's going to make it sound worse.
Cool.
There you go. We'll make it into a 15-second delay as opposed to a 6-second delay. So what have you guys been up to musically? How's this past year, 18 months of, total shite been? How's it been for you guys?
Well, I think it's the first time in nearly 20 years that the National hasn't been on tour. Because we would take little breaks, but never much more than at the most a couple months or something, because there'd always be something. So this is the first time we haven't played a show in a long time. And it was hard for a while to unplug from it, but then I think now we're all really used to it. It might be hard to get back into it, actually. But for me, I realized obviously that I have a studio at home, so I did a ton of work, and that was really nice. And I finally felt like I'm kind of a good dad, maybe. Or I'm in a present dad, because I have 3 kids, little kids, and it was nice just to not have to go anywhere, But the band, I don't know, Scott, there's wheels turning now, and I think we're getting excited about getting back together. And
we got together in the spring for a short bit, and that was fruitful, I would say. And then, I guess there'll be a period of time until we do something proper again, but hopefully next year. I don't know.
How did you feel creatively? Was this over the past year and a half? I've read various people saying, I managed to create loads and write loads, and then there's people who said that they were just so uninspired and found it really difficult. How was it for you? I know, Aaron, you said you enjoyed being a dad, having some time off. So Scott, maybe what was your kind of creative output like?
I think that was sort of the vibe with the whole band in a way, just being home and kind of having a moment to reflect on, 20 years of touring and being away and regrouping. And so I think, that was on the positive side, that was the vibe, I guess, as far as just actually getting to be home and do stuff that was normal and real, as opposed to constantly in the cycle of creating and then performing and then regrouping. I have a young one right here, right now. One is what are you doing? I'm yeah. talking
I'm on a
about
cider podcast.
Yeah,
Come on. Hello.
but yeah. So I mean, this is pretty much par for the course for the last like 2 years, basically, where we're just home and like kind of like doing stuff when we can and how we can. And I don't know. I mean, as far as creativity, I think it's been a mixed bag. I think that, you know, like when you have the time, you can kind of, it's been nice to have space, I guess, from the normal.
Will you look at it differently now? Like Aaron, you said, as you said about your being a dad, are you now going to kind of try and put the brakes on it a bit, you know, or just try and make more time to be at home?
I think it's something you realize, and you would know this, like from touring so many years, it is at some point you start running on fumes and it's hard to like stay healthy mentally and physically. And it's like such an amazing life in a lot of ways, but it's also like there's a lot of wreckage, and we've all lived it in different ways, obviously. And it's like, I think you have to be careful. And I think we're at that point where we realize that we need to put the health of our families and ourselves above like rock and roll or whatever, you know, but which with that, it didn't used to be that way. We used to be like just road dogs, like literally nothing would stop us because it becomes this like single-minded, like, you know, you just churn it out and you never really give up. You never cancel anything. We never canceled anything, even if we were sick or whatever. But then I think like now you can definitely see with the way the world is slowed down and whatever pathogens in the air and so much uncertainty and anxiety, like you can also be very creative at home, and you can, like for me, it was real. I didn't realize what I was capable of if I would just be in one place, I guess. And so, and be close to the studio. But I think it's also important to play live music, and we'll find the right balance, but I don't think we'll ever tour like we used to. So it's not really sustainable when you have families and I mean, I started giving people touring advice at some point. I'd be like, take it slow, space it out, whatever, you know, like don't burn out, don't get drunk. And then I realized it's like, it's so boring that I was giving advice. I don't give anyone advice anymore, but when I meet young people that haven't been on tour a lot, in my mind, I'm like, see you in a couple of years, you know, like it is hard.
Yeah, but so, you wouldn't necessarily change the way that you've done it.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't.
Past, you know, like I mean,
I'm
the same. You know, that's kind of how we did it, you know, and it's that slow. Well, when you look back on it, you think it's a slow burn. At the time, it feels like non-stop. But yeah, I guess you wouldn't. I don't imagine you would say to someone, "Don't turn down gigs." Don't do everything. But yeah, like you say, you've done a lot in the studio. You've done a lot of. You've still been putting stuff out there. One album in particular, 2 albums in particular. You did some work with Taylor Swift. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Tell us how that came about. And
yeah,
you know, I'm kind of interested in how the 2 different worlds that you're in and musically and how that worked and creatively, and whether it was a case of, you know, do you sort of pull her into your world, she pulls you into hers? I don't know how that worked. I'd be interested to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the band, she's a fan of the National, and I think she had been for a long time, and we'd met her when we played Saturday Night Live. And Scott, when did we play Saturday Night Live? 2000.
God, it was like 18 maybe, or 17. I think it was around.
I feel like it was.
No, sorry, it was earlier. No, it was earlier. It was like because it was around.
This is what touring does to the mind.
So it's probably Sorry.
We've all got Google here, and none of us are looking.
yeah.
We're going, we'll wait.
No, we're going to use our minds. It might have been it could have been 14, actually.
2014.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Scott.
she was
Scott.
Producer
Well
Scott.
so she was there. We met her then, and then like, she came to see us play in Brooklyn at Prospect Park, and my brother talked to her a lot, and I talked to her a bunch, and I think, and she was really lovely, like really kind of just down to earth, and I don't know, like it's not that I didn't expect that, but when you meet someone that's that famous, sometimes you think they might be like whatever, hard to relate to, but in her case, that's not true at all. So she's really down to earth, but nothing like, basically when the pandemic happened, she sent me a text in March or in April last year, just being like, hey, would you ever consider collaborating remotely? And I was just at home, and I had been writing a ton of music, as I normally am, but I was really writing it a lot. And she said, like, the weirdest idea you have, or whatever you know, like anything you're doing, I'd be interested to hear it. And I just sent her a folder of stuff I happened to be making, and she sent back that song Cardigan, like a couple hours later. And honestly, it felt, first of all, it felt like this weird lightning bolt hit the house, and it was really beautiful, like crazy, well realized song in 3 hours or whatever it was since she heard it. And it was just a voice memo of her singing. It sounded almost like a finished record, her voice on the voice memo. And it just was a window into like the weird acumen that she has, but it didn't feel any different really than any other, like working with Matt or working with the band. And it just felt like very natural and very organic. And there was never any influence from the outside that whole time. So we just kept going, and eventually Folklore happened, and then we kept going, and Evermore happened. But there was I never had to deal with anyone except her, and she's so lovely and makes you feel good about what you're doing and makes you feel appreciated, and she has tons of ideas and is very sharp and lots of fun. And yeah, it was a real pleasure. And at some point I got the band all played on a song, and Brian played on a bunch of songs actually. And Bryce orchestrated a bunch of songs, and but it was a weird life raft in this time of the pandemic. And yeah, but it was a weird twist. You know, I didn't expect that to happen. And I feel like everything I'd done with the band, that kind of prepared me, because we've used to working like that, working remotely and sending each other ideas, and also just like making songs over long, you know, like we started when we were in our early 20s, and now we're in our mid 40s or whatever. And there's a lot of miles under our belts. So we kind of like, I felt it was just natural, basically. It was like, oh yeah, let's just make some stuff. And then we did. So
Aaron, you said something really interesting then about working with somebody who was really famous. I would say, compared to the ciderologist, which I've got a degree of fame within the cider world, you know, a little bit.
In the UK cider world.
You know, yeah, I know.
You got to hook us up.
The national, it'll be fair. Don't you worry, my friend. I will sort you out. You know, you're a huge band. You are a Grammy award-winning band. It's interesting that you view someone like Taylor Swift as being like a sort of step beyond. Have you sort of seen or be exposed or seen any of the potential like benefit or like sort of dark challenge of having such incredible absolute fame that is almost sort of, you know, terrifying in a way, for Aaron or for Scott?
I think even with the band, like we've all experienced the downsides of like being recognizable on some level, or being like feeling like your privacy is invaded, or you know. But with her, like she's just been in the media spotlight and the media glare, like has been dissecting every shred of information about her since she was 17 or something, or 16, and it's really on another level. And I think that was part of the gift of the pandemic, was like, it was all under the radar. Like everything we did was like completely unknown until right before it came out, like literally the day it came out. And so I think that was really special in a way, or really like nice that no outside kind of, shouldn't feel that pressure. But I don't know, she handles it really well. And I think we've learned to handle it in a way where it's like, I don't know, you just, unless you get doxxed. I got doxxed by like the right wing. Did you guys hear about this? I got doxxed by like these. QAnon.
It was insane.
QAnon.
Tell us.
Last summer, and like I was misidentified as an Antifa leader in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow. That's right. That was scary though.
Donald Trump retweeted it, and like pretty scary. What did you think, Scott?
Wow.
Man, you really are famous. That's amazing.
And by the way, for those who don't know what doxed is, that's when you get your personal information released out to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. It was a pretty crazy few days, right? Because like we were all just like, oh, we're all going to die. for like, whatever, no reason at all.
The FBI showed up.
Were you getting a lot of threats? Was that?
Oh yeah, thousands and thousands, like crazy. We like. There's nowhere for you to hide, and everything they would do to me. And then even after they knew the truth, like that I was just some whatever indie rock guy, not leading riots. They still didn't believe it. And then then it became funny. They thought that like there was a left-wing conspiracy to make them look stupid for targeting me. Then, which was actually kind of
There's no
funny.
conspiracy needed to make them look stupid.
So it worked, Aaron. Your plan worked.
And I'm here to reveal.
Totally. Oh man, that's wild.
But it was not fun while it was happening. But
Jesus. Well, on like I guess a positive note to hear just a nice bit of chat. You guys were. It's going to sound trivial after that, but on my Spotify, it was like the artist of the decade was The National. And I think I listened to your music 4 times more than the last person.
That's amazing.
I was going to ask you, but the access to that music means that I can listen to it all the time. But like the downsides to sort of essentially not paying for music, Grant's talked about it a lot. But how do you guys feel about sort of streaming music and how it's consumed now?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's a real quandary that I don't think it's been figured out yet, where like, it requires such a scale of streaming for it to be worth anything to the artist. But like for big artists, it does work, because like I think in the Nationals case, we're fine because our listeners are obsessive and they keep listening. And so eventually it's like, it catches up, I think.
Don't point at me.
Yeah, totally.
So it's basically you.
Probably,
like,
if you add up all the, if you add up all my streams, you get like $22 maybe for the decade.
I can get like a couple of ciders. It's great. But I don't know. I think the system needs to be recalibrated to make it so that like up and coming artists can actually survive, and they can't right now. Like it's like anyone that doesn't have millions of streams or whatever of their songs, they're not actually making any money. And then and then with the pandemic, nobody could tour, so a lot of people gave up, I think, and left. Like stopped making music or stopped trying to do that. And so it's problematic, but I don't know. There is a weird economy though, that like, I think vinyl has come back in a huge way, and that's great. And then there is something happening with like the democratization of anyone can upload a song. And I think that is positive ultimately, because there's no gatekeepers, there's nobody like saying like, I think it used to be really hard to get a record deal and get your music out there. And now anyone can do it. And I think that's positive, but it's like still an issue of how do you make money from it? So I don't know. But again, we're the lucky ones because we actually have an audience. So.
But then it's Scott, is that kind of why is that why you toured so much? Because, I know you probably started making music in a kind of transitional time where physical records were sort of dying, but like Aaron says, it's still not been properly figured out digitally, but iTunes had started and things like that. Is that kind of why at that point you're like, well, we have to tour because people pay us to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been, I guess, the cash cow as far as like trying to actually make money from doing something is like going and playing a show and having people attend that show or not. And and then like selling merch and selling records, and Aaron mentioned vinyl and that sort of thing coming back, but it's like it's a weird, I don't know, it's a weird economy. But I mean, yeah, for the most part, like I think the main income for bands is like playing live shows. So it's like it's interesting to sort of both like be without that for a while and then like come back to it or not. And I don't know. I'm a little whatever. It's a bit up in the air, I guess.
Aaron, are you gonna tour any Big Red Machine?
I feel like it's like a band. It's a non-band band. It's like kind of a band, but kind of not a band. And so I feel like we might tour. I know it's not a band, but so I feel like the answer is that someday we'll play music on a very like really high production, like 3 shows, and just blow it out kind of thing. Actually, Scott played with us on TV the other day, which was awesome. But we had like great musicians with us, and Justin wasn't there because he hates TV. But like, I think I was just with him this last weekend, and we talked about like, well, let's just do like a couple shows and like film them and make them like really special. So I think that's the idea. So where it's not like a tour, but more like a residency or something somewhere where people can come and we film it and then we release it, or that kind of thing. So because he has Bon Iver and we have the National, and
So talking about great musicians, you produced Grant's Brand. Are they Frightened Rabbit? Is that the one? How was producing that? Like any stories that you can tell us, his good mates, about him in that period?
Oh, wow. Well, I probably have a lot of stories. I have signed NDAs after we finish the record. So
bring them all. Come on.
No, I mean, they had toured with us so much and we were huge fans of them. And it was really, I love the record that we made. I think it's like one of the best things I've ever done. And, obviously, it being the last Frightened Rabbit record was not something anyone expected, but I feel like it's like a beautiful piece of work, and you can really feel the power and the weird what was really special about Scott and about the band, and it was a joy to make, and I learned a lot. And yeah, every record I have ever made, I feel like I learn a lot. And I feel like it was a record that wasn't appreciated as much as I think it should have been. But that's like most records, basically. Like I think every record should be like more appreciated. But I think that's the downside of Spotify and everything is it's everything like if it's not French fries, if it's not designed to just make you like whatever ear candy, then it kind of it doesn't totally have a home right now because everything right now is designed for like TikTok or whatever, So, anyways, but that doesn't relate to the record. But I think yeah, I don't know. I really love the whole process, and yeah, I have very fond memories of it.
Yeah, it was probably the first time or I don't know, it was the earliest we'd started working with someone in the process of a record. Quite usually, well, specifically Scott would, the songs, even in demo form, would be quite fully formed. But that wasn't the case. I remember when you came over to that pretty shitty rehearsal room that we were demoing in, and we played you some stuff, and it was like, oh, okay, that's how far off it is. But I think it was a learning curve for all of us as well, because we weren't used to that. Someone being involved at that
stage,
at that stage in the process, and at that level, I wondered how do you work it with the National? What's your kind of writing or demoing, recording process? Obviously, you're in it from the start because that would make sense. But how does that work?
I mean, I do remember that, like, because also Scott came earlier to the garage, like even before I came to Glasgow, and honestly, I think you guys, like, in a way, because you all are like, we're producing together in a way. It was more like I was just sort of joining the band for like a couple months almost or something. But the National, it's similar. I think we like, it takes us a long time to find the weird magic, and like there's early ideas, and I generate a lot of music and Matt responds to it. But really, when it becomes something greater is when everyone bounces off of it. And similar to how Brian and Scott bounce off our music, like when Billy and you, Grant, would like play to Scott's songs, and then they would all of a sudden like take on another energy or something. And I think it was similar in a way. It was like, I think it's always interesting for me to see inside other bands, and it kind of makes me feel better about my band, because I'm like, okay, all bands are kind of hard, or kind of like tricky,
some validation in that.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm like, but I think that's the only time I've ever. There's a lot of songs on that record, on your guys' record, that I really feel like similarly to how I feel about my favorite National songs or something, where they just like, it's like I feel very like I can listen to them and get a lot of emotional catharsis out of them, which
ones would they be?
Well, like Death Dream and Die Like a Rich Boy, and Wish I Was Sober. There's a lot.
I like
there's
that
a lot
song.
of them. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What about Get Out? Whatever the
Get Out.
Is it called Get Out? I don't know. It's like
it's called Get Out. I guess that's probably, to be fair, is probably one that was quite far on. Really.
Yeah.
Well, compared to the rest, and that was the kind of, that was our sort of 5-piece rock band thing.
Yeah.
And then I guess what, and you'll be familiar with this, Scott, where Aaron, it just felt like what you do is so subtle that sometimes it's, even I listening back to things which I don't obviously often do with my own band or anyway, but even I'd be noticing things like, right, that's why he spent 4 hours trying to get that little ping out of a piano. It was, but that was. Did you record anything else in the garage after that? Because the garage is no more technically, is it?
Yeah, no, I think that was near the end. It might have been Lisa Hannigan's album that I made. That was the very last thing. I think it was just after.
My God!
Yeah, we closed the garage and built the studio upstate, and now that's kind of been more. It's less subtle. That the studio upstate is more widescreen.
For me, one of my favorite songs ever is Guilty Party. And I just want to, I'm just wondering, as I've got the opportunity, which Cider has apparently afforded me, like how does a song like that come about to sound like that as well? Because it just, on that album, it's just such a beautiful moment that I fucking adore it.
Well, that one, I mean, I think it's, there's a lot of songs. I think it started with Brian's drum machine that he probably sent me. And then it, like the piano chord, like the sort of like basis of it was there, just like the chord progression in the drum machine. But I think at some point we started to, my brother is a classical composer, and he's kind of impatient in the recording studio. So he'll not really pay attention to what's going on. He'll put on his headphones and then start like writing stuff in Sibelius, like in his composition software. So a lot of the guitar, the kind of pointillistic, minimalist guitar playing stuff is him writing in Sibelius, like out some crazy lattice work of guitars, and then we figure out how to play it after the fact. And and then we did a lot of experiments in Berlin during the People festivals, these weird residencies that we were part of. But then you hear the band playing live, then Brian and Scott play live to it. But so it's a weird mix of early demo with a beautiful piano, but then Berlin expedition, there's some 17-year-old with a USB keyboard of 1 octave and he's playing a sound you would never know how to make, and that's somewhere in there. And then back to the studio and everyone's playing along, and then eventually Matt sings to it, but that's kind of like a lot of national songs. They go through these different phases of us getting bored with it, and then we finally figure out how to make it something that we like, I guess. But Scott, tell me if that's accurate. I think that's accurate. But
I think that's 100% accurate. Accurate. That's fine. We try a bunch of shit and throw it at the wall, and then most of it works. Or I guess with our music, it's more getting the feeling or something out of it. And so if there's a resonant feeling out of it, that's good, and that works for us. And I think that song, I think also the lyric of it is very poignant and very, kind of draws you in. But I think it's part and parcel of the music having this sort of grip or something. And then there's this nice vocal that kind of defines it for you. So I don't know.
Do you ever now kind of write with live shows or live playing in mind, or you always just now we'll deal with we'll make it as well as we can in the studio, and then we'll figure it out later how we're going to do it live?
We have, I think, more recently. Well, there's always certain songs. It's kind of at the end of the process where you're holy shit, we can't just release all this weird, mellow, subtle stuff, and then we'll write Apartment Story and whatever. You can, but we definitely can. But I think there are these phases we go through. But now, we've written a lot of new music, and there are some where it's you lean into what Brian does well, or you lean into what Matt does well, and but it's weird. It's I feel the best national songs you can't plan for or something. They just happen. And it's you don't really expect it. And that's with all music. It's you can't really contrive to do anything. Otherwise it feels like that. So we just collect. We're scavengers, and we unearth these things. And then eventually, but we never know. It might be that we never make another good song, actually. I don't know. It's kind of hard also. So.
Every
news
time.
Alert. Here we go. This is it. Breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
We'll never make another good song.
Yeah, the Nationals. John. Thank you guys so much. It was fun. This was super fun.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Good to see you, Grant. Everybody. See you, Scott.
I'll be in touch.
Thanks for the recommendation.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye.
Cheers, bub.
Enjoy. Cheers.
Are you going to kick him off? Or?
I'll kick him off. Aaron kicked off. Boom.
Done.
Aaron kicked off. There you go. Scott, would you ever like to just sort of just kick Aaron off? He's just gone. There you go.
There he
easy.
is.
Having the power. Amazing.
Wow.
Well, we were talking earlier about you playing on Stephen Colbert. What was it? What's it like going back to that kind of like gig routine and sort of, does it feel like back to work? Is it exciting because it's like new again, or is it like, oh, I was actually enjoying what I was doing?
I guess a little of both. It was definitely like back to work, like it's the most people I'd been around in like 2 years, basically at one time. And, and then, I mean, there was obviously like COVID protocols around doing it. So there was testing and, whatever, masking when we could. Obviously when we played, we didn't. But yeah, it was strange to be back in like the real world of television, I guess, for a minute. I mean, yeah, Aaron's gone now, but he can attest to like the weirdness of we're doing this, it's happening, it's live, it was cool and weird and fun. And, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're in this weird moment where we may go into lockdown again or not, or it's uncertain with the Delta stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it. I guess either way, but we'll see.
And was it strange just being in like the city? I assume you had to go into the city to do it.
Yeah. That I hadn't been in the city like proper. I mean, I drove in for an appointment like a year ago, but it was super weird then, and it was like, I guess half as weird now.
Yeah.
to go in and just like, oh yeah, there's people here and like we're doing things and like this is okay. But I was very cautious, I guess, because I'm kind of reticent anyway. So I was just like, mask up and whatever.
So you actually do have a cider, Scott. So
I do.
we should maybe.
Yeah, you made the effort, so thank you, Scott. Not Aaron.
Cheers, Scott. Yeah, cheers, Scott.
Cheers.
That Aaron.
Thanks.
That Aaron.
What do you normally drink? Would you normally pick up a cider? Would you normally?
I think my normal drink would be an IPA. Like I guess all the rage in the US lately is the hazy IPAs and the northeastern kind of crunchy stuff. But I do like cider a lot. We were in Somerset many years ago, I guess, at enjoying some local cider, and I don't know, I've always liked it. I've always liked the kind of I guess drier ciders and the more kind of like, I guess from Angry Orchard, that Supernatural is real tasty.
Yes, mate.
The
it's like
Supernatural.
Great. Yeah,
name drop.
That was my but
oh, do you guys know that? Yeah. The old Supernatural.
Grant pitched a new name for it called Ghost Notes, but they haven't taken it up yet.
It's a good one.
Thank you, Scott.
Very drummer of you.
I know, exactly.
No, thank you, sir.
This is what we've all agreed. No, absolutely not.
Every cider though, he's like, yeah, that should be called drumsticks. Oh yeah, tom.
It's called a ghost note. The song's a note. It's like the space between the notes. Anyway. Yeah. No, it's good.
Let's bring it back then, because I was listening to the first album the other day again, and I was just thinking about how music's changed and everything for me listening to it back, but for you guys who made it, what's it like playing those songs before lockdown, and I guess what's it like returning to them now when it's talk about coming back and playing live next year?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's like we're sort of I guess we're sort of in between, you know what I mean? Like we played our last show in December of 2019, not expecting the future, and then the future is now, and so it's like it's a bit abstract, you know. It's like kind of like, all right, you know, like we know these songs, we know like, but like having them out there in the world and like, I don't know, just like coming back, I guess, in whatever, maybe next year, hopefully. And plus new music. It's a whole interesting sort of conundrum, I guess, of like, how do you like sort of like believe in what you did and what you do, and then like kind of present it today. And like, I don't know, we're probably overthinking it, but it's weird to like be away from it. Like Aaron was saying earlier, it's like we've sort of straight toured for 20 years. And to sort of come back and then like, all right, like, let's hit it. Like I just been watching all these bands kind of like come out, like Wilco and Sleater-Kinney and all these like big tours that are happening. Yeah. Limp Bizkit, of course, always.
National and Limp Bizkit in the same conversation is like my wet dream. I'm not.
There you go. No. And so it's like seeing all this stuff happen like presently is very like, I don't know. It's like very enlightening / lightly terrifying, I guess. Like, cause just like, oh my God, like we've been away for 2 years. So it feels like an eternity after doing what we did for a while. So it's like, I don't know. It's
a kind of inertia. Like you kept going and then the brakes happen.
And then it's just like, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens in 2022, but that's our next slated foray into this world of music.
Scott, I was interested to touch back on again on the idea and the concept of fame and success. You, unlike some bands, you had a little bit of a sort of slow burn in terms of the start of your career, that you were releasing albums whilst, forgive me, you or personally or members of the band still had sort of other kind of day jobs. Do you think that that gradual step up rather than just a sort of first album sort of smash was beneficial to you personally or to the band in terms of the longevity and the journey you've been able to be on, rather than sort of being thrown in the deep end and being sort of chewed up by the machine?
I think we've always been realists, you know what I mean? Like, so we're always just kind of like, we were doing these jobs that we kind of liked or didn't. And then we really like, you know, music all through our lives, and we all played music kind of like amateurly or semi-professionally throughout. So like having a chance to do it, or having any chance to do it at all, was kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, let's go out. Like at the beginning, it was very much a boys' vacation club situation where we're like, oh, okay, so we can take our vacation from work and go play like 10 shows in the US and then come back, and like no one would come to the shows, but we would be excited.
So you'd take your holiday to work, essentially a job that wasn't paying and was a lot of hard work.
Correct.
Jesus Christ.
but that idea was fun, and the adventure was fun. I think for any band, I mean we were lucky to have like jobs that we could pay our rent and shit like that. And they weren't great jobs, and they weren't like, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was like an opportunity to sort of kind of do both things for a while and test them out and be like, okay, like let's go do this for a bit and then come back and then, you know, see what happens. And we did that for many years, much to the chagrin of our like girlfriends and wives who actually were like, had to hold down the fort and were just like, oh my God, you guys are idiots. And we're like, we know, but it's going to work. Trust us. Never did we say that, but we thought that. We're just like, we just kind of soldiered on, you know? And I don't know, whatever. It just kind of like, at some point it kind of connected. And that was gratifying. And like, even in the smallest ways, like being able to like, you know, play a show that people gave any shit about was like interesting. So, and also like we had been like music fans our whole lives. Like we've been to shows, we went to see every band that we could through the 80s, 90s and whatever. And, I don't know, like to actually like get out there and do it. I mean, we were like not good at the beginning, like at all. But like we had the spirit, you know, and I think that's all it takes in a bit, you know, just like you have to have the passion, the drive to do it. So I don't know.
And it was part of what you described in terms of being, you know, music fans and that drive part of the instigation of doing the homecoming festival. You know, Cincinnati's kind of where you guys are from, but you were Brooklyn for the 20 years prior to that. What was it about the want or the need of the drive to come back to Cincinnati? What did you feel that you sort of that owed the city?
Well, I think I guess like we were always like we grew up there. We made our sort of initial forays into music there. With the many bands that we were in as kids and in college and stuff like that. And we love the city, and like my brother lives there, and it was just like a whole like kind of like, you know what, like let's represent like kind of where we came from. And even though like the band National kind of started in New York, we're all from Cincinnati, we grew up there, that's our sort of bread and butter in a way. And so I think like, I mean, I hope we can do it again. Like we're planning to do it hopefully in 2022, like another, like, cause we canned the other one cause COVID. So
I was going to say why?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, because the world ended. Oh,
there was this whole world ending thing anyway, but yeah, I don't know. Like we're kind of, you know, whatever is as like international as the band seems, I think we're all very like we grew up there, and that we have a lot of like personal roots in Cincinnati, in Ohio, and I don't know, a lot of love for that place, and also like I think it's sort of central to the U.S. in a way. Like for having other bands come there, it feels it's like a river city that has this sort of like roots to it in a weird way. But like having like all kinds of bands come there is like a fun thing. So
I like the idea that it's like emotional journey, also logistics. It's great.
Yeah,
So,
well, but with the USA, that is important because you're the continental landmass.
It's
the UK being
huge.
the size of a bogey. Is
I drive.
Martin,
to,
have you ever been?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. But I drive to like places in England. I'm like, that's an hour and a half. That's a long thing. It's like, oh, is that a long journey? Is it like that's like the same town in America, no?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, like an hour and a half is like Cincinnati to Columbus, basically, which is like the the same state and like whatever.
But the love for Ohio and that like it, as well with the music it shows. But like I wanted to just say that my best mate Jay, he has Blood Buzz Ohio tattooed on him simply because of the song. Because for him, that's like his song about his hometown, which is, I mean, not anywhere near it. It's in Cornwall in the middle of fuck nowhere. But it's
I was going to say, what is his hometown?
Yeah, Wadebridge, Cornwall. Scott's like, oh yeah, I know that. One with the small market street. Yeah. But no, it's like that genuine honesty with all your music, guys, is just like, it really does shine through. So I was just basically adding on to say, again, thank you for writing such beautiful music.
I'm glad that it's affecting people. I mean, like that's sort of the thing. It's like kind of like what is meaningful to you? Like what is your sort of like North Star or kind of like hometown kind of vibe? I mean, that's a sort of our whole thing in a way. Like we're all like spread all over the place now, but like that means a lot to us to like have someone connect with something like that in the UK, or like it just means like, you know, like what is your heart, what is your meaning, and like that kind of thing. So I think that's always been a touchstone for the band lyrically and otherwise.
Well, presumably, you know, you all individually and as a band must have had that in terms of the influences of your music. And what seems interesting is that quite a lot of those bands were British, you know, in thinking about Stone Roses and U2 and New Order, and you can hear it and you can feel it in terms of the production and the energy and the stories that you're kind of telling. It was, I mean, was it just that was an amazing time and those were great brands that you were just all listening to? Was there something about the feeling or the tone that particularly resonated with all of you?
I mean, I think at least I can speak for my brother and myself, where we grew up listening to those bands like Stone Roses, U2, like everything you just listed. And it's like, and like, I mean, I think Grant, you can say this like with Fightin' Rabbit too. It's like kind of like this feeling of just like, I don't know, just kind of like an emotional kind of wave or something that resonates through all those bands. New Order, like whatever. I mean, it could be colder, it could be hotter, whatever, but it's like there is some kind of like presence and kind of moment. Well, Grant, like you guys were talking about I had heard actually, Aaron had played me some Frightened Rabbit demos. I remember when we were recording, probably in like, I guess it was before the last record, and I heard them and I was like, it had a very like that kind of like draw to me, I guess, of New Order, and kind of like this kind of like, kind of like emotional resonance with kind of like this sort of synthy and beaty kind of thing, and just kind of like, I'm like, this is fucking great, because it's like, it kind of like has like a groundswell of like feeling and like whatever kind of like comes over you.
And certainly, you guys being a big influence and part of that last record as well, definitely. I mean, always have been, certainly, with Scott, and myself as well, but like certainly with him, with the songwriting, him being, starting that off, you guys were always a band that you listened to and loved, and certainly with that last record, obviously we toured with you quite a lot before it, and yeah, I guess and I think we were kind of looking away from that guitar band thing as well, and trying to see, well, we're not really listening to that much of that anymore,
right?
But it's still what we do, but then it's kind of trying to bring all those elements together, I guess, and not make it sound like it's just 5 people listening to 5 different records,
Well, both of you guys have been in bands that have gone through that. Like you've just said, we don't really listen to that kind of guitar rock band music anymore. Is that something with getting old? Like, because the Nationals definitely become way less like Mr. November wouldn't fit on the last 3 albums, I don't think.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's definitely like we're always like, oh, we're a guitar band, but we hate guitar bands or something.
Yeah,
we don't. We're
the cool guys from Cincinnati.
No, yeah, we're the cool guys. Not at all. But I think we're always trying to like push ourselves beyond whatever we think we should be or shouldn't be, or just kind of like, oh, like here's a new thing, or explore this or that. But I think any good band, and I know this of ourselves, it's like kind of like drawing on that emotional resonant thing is like huge for us. Like if the songs mean nothing to us, there's no point. You know what I mean? Like it has to have like a draw, a feel, a sort of like pulse, and all that. And if that requires guitars, so be it. But it's like sometimes it doesn't. Could be a bunch
it's like the most reluctant like response to guitar music.
It's like, so be it. If you need them, no. I mean, I love guitar music. Trust me. I like whatever. I play it.
It's it's actually, I don't know. I think sometimes it's harder to go in and just be like, well, right, Scott, you're the bassist, you're going to play the bass, Aaron, you're going to play guitar, like just do the 5-piece band thing, set up, all play one part throughout the song. To make a song like that and make it really good is actually harder, I think, than doing all the layers and doing lots of overdubs and things like that, and trying to build something. It's not, maybe to say that it's harder is the wrong phrase, but there's something very special about a guitar band being able to be a guitar band and make pop music that everyone loves, and make it sound easy.
Yeah.
Those are the best. Those are the best bands, and they don't come along very often. And I'm not suggesting that you guys had to go down the route of building songs differently because you couldn't do that, but that's certainly what we did. So
no one got that. You were saying that about the National, but then it was like,
I wasn't saying that about the National. I wasn't saying it.
I'm just saying I prefer Limp Bizkit. That's what Grant was.
Yeah. I was going to actually contradict Grant.
Please do.
No, only in that, like, we are never super precious about like what each person does while we're recording. Like we're all just like switching around, like try this, try that. Like if like sometimes I play bass, I like often don't play bass on the recordings.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick it up later or whatever, and then I'll play something, or it's a free for all kind of like just trying to create this whole thing every time, like you're building this whatever moment in music or something that you think is important.
So if you're not playing the bass on a certain song, is there a standout that you'd be like, I didn't think I'd be playing the glockenspiel? Like, is there an example where you've got something that you just couldn't have, starting an album, you wouldn't have thought you were playing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to play any keyboards or piano, but I love the instrument and I often play them. And I often play guitar. I was a guitar player, like, to start. We actually switched instruments at some point in our history of the band. So I was a guitar player for like the beginning, and then like we switched instruments, and I'm now the bass player. But whatever. It's like we're not real like super precious about that stuff, and I think it's more about ideas and feeling and just whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I guess, yeah, like also we've made 9 or 10 records almost. So we're working on our 9th record. So it's like, I think the most important thing is just kind of like, for us at least, it's like to kind of always be innovating, at least within our own sphere, you know, and finding what could happen, or just like unexpected shit that, you know. And Brian's always the drummer basically, and like we're always our own roles, but we're always trying to kind of like push outside that as much as we can.
Scott, Grant alluded to something earlier that I wanted to get your take on too, which is when you tour with a band, sometimes they can influence you because it's different when you hear an album and you're like, oh, I like what they did there. But when you're on the road with them for weeks or months, I can see how you can really connect with their music in a different way, and it may give you ideas or may have you approach things differently. Do you see it that way as well? Have bands had an influence on you that you've been on tour with?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'll start with Frightened Rabbit because they're, the topic of the day.
Here.
Yes. Yeah, you're here. There you are.
If you weren't, he's like, oh, that one. Yeah. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's so wonderful, like spending time with those guys. I mean, mainly, I think because of music, obviously, but also like the personalities of the people that you interact with, and tour with, and like spend every day with, and like travel down the road with, and like whatever. It's a little like adventure, I guess. And I think, I'm thankful that we got to spend that time together with Grant and the guys. And it's like, I feel like, yeah, that's absolutely influential to like our appreciation of their music, and I guess of other bands' music that we have toured with. Is like just actually interacting with the humanity of the situation and the reality of like here's people we like and love and like want to like hug and like hang out with and drink beers with, and or just have a chat or whatever. And I think that's always important to your, I guess, internally our appreciation of the music. Like we've toured with big bands like REM and stuff, and they were wonderful people, and that's all like it's all been, I guess, isn't lost on us. It's like, wow, to like hear somebody talk about like their thoughts on this or that, and just the whole like human experience of the whole thing is really valuable, and important to all of us. It's like, it's exciting, it's weird, it's like oh my God, like this is happening, in a moment, and it'll be gone tomorrow. So
I think that's totally sums it up absolutely perfectly. Like when the most influence that we would take touring with bands would be looking up to people that, as the support band, treated us well, were friendly, looked after us and respected us, so that when it came to our time to have someone on the road with us, that's how we would treat them, knowing that that's how we want to be treated, and the National being that band, and Death Cab and Biffy, like just showing, like Scott said, other humans some respect goes so far, especially in an industry like that where, it can be scarce and a rarity.
Also, you guys talking about it, listening in, it's like a mad home away from home, and you'll on the road and it's non-stop. It just, the fact that you guys and everyone you've mentioned, Grant, has had a cider with us, but like the fact that you've been able to show compassion and have a good time in the face of essentially being away from home that long just sounds like that goes miles in itself.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a minute and just name all the bands that weren't respectful to you?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, name and shame.
Number
name
one,
and shame.
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit, Scott.
Yeah.
Fucking Limp Bizkit. That guy.
No.
But you tend to gravitate towards, good people, gravitate towards good people, and like you wouldn't do as many shows or as many tours that we'd done together or that Death Cab did or that we did with Biffy if that wasn't in place, generally.
Yeah, for sure. Like mutual respect for like what everyone does, and like everyone's music is different, and it's like, but it's interesting together. It's a whole, I guess, a biosphere of kind of like existence where it's like, I don't know. It's hard to get along in the world. So it's like, it's nice to find like-minded people and just kind of like, here's the thing we're doing together and let's work it out,
Yeah. So one thing I did want to ask about actually, which might tie in is that you've got a book that's been released, Light Years.
Oh yeah. Yep.
A photo book, yeah, and I didn't realize it was a Scottish photographer, Graham McIndoe.
Yep.
So yeah, tell us about that. How did that come about? Why a photo book? What was it that made you guys want to put that together?
Well, so Graham and I know each other from way back when in the 90s. He is a professional photographer and was then, and but I always respected his work and loved what he did. And we didn't have a band then, but then we started a band, and I was like, hey, can you take some band photos of our nascent band? And he kind of reluctantly agreed to do so. And yeah, and then...
And what is it about a photo, a photograph collection that gives people another insight into what it is that you do? Why is that so special?
Well, I think our story with Graham is like he shot a bunch of press photos for us in like 2001 to 2003, and then kind of disappeared for a while. Got addicted to heroin, kind of fell off the radar. We kind of like went on, did our thing, and then we kind of reconnected about 10 years later, basically. And that was I always loved Graham. I love what he did. I didn't know all the details of what happened until after the fact. And then I was like, oh shit. And so we were recording Trouble Will Find Me, and I got in touch with him, and he's like, oh, I just got a prison and all this stuff. And I was like, oh shit. Jesus, and so it's like, let's he's like, I'd love to take some photos. I'm like, let's get together. And so basically he came up and shot a bunch of photos around that recording session in 2013, and then stayed on with us and did a bunch of press photos and live photos and all that. And so this is sort of Light Years is sort of an encapsulation of our 20 years together, both as friends with Graham and the band, and then also there's some writing and essays in the book that are related to like kind of defining what that is or defining that time a little bit and being more specific, I guess, about what happened. But I think all in all, like I always love what he did photographically, and like how he captured sort of like people in this sort of stark, kind of straightforward way, very Scottish situation as far as the aesthetic. Yeah, and I love Graham, and I'm so happy that it's basically just sort of like a collection of our time together over 20 years. So yeah, and then there's some whatever live recording music with it, but mainly it's about kind of this time period with Graham and us.
Fantastic, Scott. As it happens, I've got a book coming out very soon as well.
Fuck off.
Modern British Cider. I'll get.
How can you hear the story of heroin and then go, I'm going to plug my book? There's no way that happened.
Because I'm gratuitous. And that's just how we roll. I'm very sorry. I'll get a copy sent out to you, Scott. Don't worry.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gabe. On that note, Scott, thank you so much for joining us here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. We hope you've had a good time. Is there any indication as to when people might be able to expect some new music from the National? What's in the pipeline?
In the pipeline. Well, I'll tell you this. We are working on a bunch of new stuff, and we hope to, I don't know, we'll see, maybe 2022. It's hard to say. This whole pandemic thing is sort of throwing a wrench in all schedules. So we shall see, but we hope to be out on the road maybe next year. Health of the world depending. Yeah, double fingers crossed, everyone.
double fingers, just
yeah, just double. Full. Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. But we'll see. Hopefully, we'll be back sooner than later.
Looking forward to having you on this side of the pond too. Fantastic.
Yes.
Awesome.
Scott, big thanks to you. Much appreciated for joining us.
Thank you so much, man.
Dude, cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers to you.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Now here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time to answer the questions our listeners have been putting to us over these last few weeks. Martin, what is our question this week?
Well, there are two, and first off, it's I want to sum this up. We're aware that season 1, that we're calling it, is drawing to a close, and I mean, we had Apple Cider Per Day sending us a lovely message last week. And this is another one where I think it's mainly for Grant, but it's genuinely one that says someone's been listening, someone cares, and it's going to be a case of seeing what you guys think.
Hey, Neutral Cider Hotel, it's Blair, and I've got a quick question for you guys. A few weeks ago, I was up in Scotland, and I was able to do some cidery things. I went to Able to see Grant and Jay, which was awesome, and got to meet and taste some cider with the guys at Dower, which was amazing as well. But on my way home from Scotland, this kind of question popped into my mind that I was hoping that you guys could shine some light on. I saw on Instagram that somebody was using that Shrek filter, and this kind of question popped up, and I was wondering, maybe this is more so directed to Grant, but I'd like to hear everyone's opinion. Does Shrek just sound like a normal guy for, Scottish children watching the movie for the first time? Like, does Shrek just sound like any ordinary dude? Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.
Blair. I think you might win a competition, Blair, for the best question we've had so far. That is amazing.
So touching stuff. I'm sure you guys agree. Yeah. First off, it's for Grant. When you hear someone say something so profound about Scotland, what are your thoughts?
Well, does I mean, how does he feel about the Canadian characters in South Park?
That's not the question, though, is it? I feel like you're doing
so
the actual question is, does the Canadian Mike Myers do a good Scottish accent, so much so that people go, he's Scottish, or do they hear onions?
No, he doesn't do a good Scottish accent. He doesn't. But it doesn't matter because Shrek's a fictional ogre. So, he's not really from anywhere. He's not Scottish.
Hang on.
Am I wrong?
Are you saying that Shrek is not Scottish?
Well, how come no one else? How come the donkey, who is from the same place as Shrek, is Eddie Murphy.
Well, he's given a voice magically, isn't he?
Yeah, but okay, got me there. Okay, so what about
Finally, that first class honours in film production has paid off. I've pulled out some fucking Shrek back.
Okay, so he's putting on a Scottish accent, but I don't think it's meant to be that, you know, he's from Scotland, that he's not in Scotland, in his forest, in his wood, in his hut. It's not technically
in his
Scotland. Swamp, that's the word I was looking for. When did you you've watched this like yesterday, so you could call me out on all of these fucking questions.
You think I don't have Shrek memorized? Oh my dad looks identical to Lord Farquaad. but no, it's mainly let's go here with him and Austin Powers, Fat Bastard, and Shrek. He clearly either loves or hates his idea of what Scottish voices are.
And there's not a Scottish voice in So I Married an Axe Murderer as well.
Yeah. Head.
Loves
move.
Well, isn't that because he is of Scottish
His parents are Liverpudlian, aren't they? They're Liverpudlian.
Are they?
I feel we give people a pass. I feel we're very easy to say, oh yeah, he's got Scottish. I think he's just an asshole. I think he got a rise when people laughed at his Scottish voice, and now he perpetuates an image of Fat Bastard and Shrek.
I'm looking this up. It's Canadian American.
No, I've just Googled it. Here we go.
Have you?
The Independent says that originally that the reason why he has a Scottish accent is that it was done with Mike Myers' Canadian accent first, written in that way, but then when the narrative arc came between the challenge between Lord Farquaad and Shrek, with the sort of the poshness of Lord Farquaad, that Myers wanted Shrek to be more, reading from the paper here, not my own words, more working class. And therefore, a Scottish accent was the one that was chosen.
So he is a prick.
Imagine if he did it in a Scouse accent, though. Head, move. No, that's not Shrek, is it? What the fuck are you doing in my swamp?
So, thanks, Blair. For your
you sound really, really thankful
for your wonderful Scottish themed question. Always a pleasure to have my nationality brought into the Neutral Cider Hotel.
Come on, that's very, very rarely happened.
It never does happen, does it?
Never.
And when it does, it's always with a serious tone,
indeed,
and never mocking.
Never.
So yeah, thanks for continuing that into the penultimate episode of series 1. But seriously, we are massive fans here, as you and everyone knows of what you and James and Susanna are doing at Little Pomona. So yeah, thanks for taking like 9 months to actually leave a speak pipe. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. And what was the wait?
Oh my god! Amazing. And number 2, this one's an actual question, and I promise it isn't rigged so that this is going to mock Dimmock. This is a serious cider question that I feel that the listeners who have listened to a national episode will go, I just fancy some like esoteric cider chat now. So this is from a lad you know called Timmy.
Hey, what's up, Neutral Cider Hotel? My name is Tim. I'm from New Zealand. I am one of Gabe's very good friends. Over here we call him Gabraham Wallenby Minger Cook the First. Give him a new name for you. I've got a question. You were talking in your episode with, is it Gideon Cole, about the differences of cider apples in different countries. And I'd just like to know a little bit more about that. as a winemaker, I'm very familiar with varieties like Pinot Noir being planted in different countries and working quite well. What is it about certain English varieties that don't work well in the US, or why is that? And, conversely, why do most of the US apple varieties not grow in the UK? Would love to know a bit more. And thank you for your podcast. It's been making pruning go so much better, and love you guys. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye.
So, Abraham Minger. Tim's been pruning and he's got some questions. His question, in short, is why apple varieties, do they work in different countries, and why some in somewhere and some in some not? That's what I'm just paraphrasing.
Sorry, I'm just going to slam some words together that all sound the same. It doesn't matter what fucking order it is. And then I'll put a question mark on the end of it and hand it over to Gabe. So, Gabe, what do you think?
So, Gabe...
The way that you leaned away so confidently after asking that question.
It was the opposite. It was that I was laughing already, and I couldn't be on the mic laughing when you say some nots. I'm aware that I didn't use the right language. But it plays on the whole getting his name entirely wrong. But instead, all right. So, Gabe.
No, I mean, that's fine,
Gabe,
right?
Gabe, give us an answer. Oh, my God.
I've forgotten what the question was, to be honest. That was
He
brilliant.
was asking about the some nots. He was asking about apple varieties and if English, basically UK varieties in the States, American state varieties not working in the UK. Explain some of the science behind terroir, I guess.
Gosh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Don't worry. I'll mix them over. I'll blag it. I'll bullshit it somehow. I'll be absolutely fine. That's it's my way. You're not recording, are you? Are you?
What is that? No. Gabe, that's going in.
No,
that's going.
That's absolutely. You're not allowed to see behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
You can't say you're going to blag and bullshit. Go on, give us the bullshit, and
Timmy.
Grant and I will be your barometer if you can get away with this now.
Timmy Towers, kia ora, my friend. Good to see you. Well, not can't see you. Hear from you.
Do you know this guy? Sorry.
Yeah, I worked with him. Yeah, it's not just a random person ringing up and calling me Gabriel Wallenby Minger the Third. He's I worked with him at Waimea Estates Winery in New Zealand, and he spent time working at a cidery as well. He's a very nice guy and got a great palate, and he's an awesome fermenter. Are
you blagging it now? Or is he an awesome fermenter?
He's an awesome fermenter.
He
is an awesome fermenter. It's, as ever, it all comes down to sort of cultural heritage. So those varieties that we grow in the West with lots of tannin, that's just specific to a particular region and time and place that's taken hundreds of years to kind of develop. And hundreds. There's been a spread around the globe of some of those varieties, but only in really kind of small patches. And, the majority of industry is with big apples. And there's big apples, not just giant apples. Like beach ball sized
No, keep blagging it. Keep blagging it. Keep going. So you're saying...
I'm an ologist.
His question was, why do some apples work and some don't really? And you said some apples grow big apples. So just keep going.
Some are big. I could have fucking said that.
Some are big, some not.
The tannic forward apple varieties that are classic to the western parts of England, they like reasonable amounts of rainfall, but they also especially like sort of cool, long autumns. And when it comes to places like various parts of North America, Australia and New Zealand, the autumn, the harvest period is like so warm, and the run up, that end of summer can be so intense that the varieties come to fruition almost too quickly, it seems. So the intensity, the richness and the roundness of the characters sometimes really struggles. Peckham's I used to work for in the Nelson area where Timmy and I were working. You know, they would try and like pick the fruit a few weeks early and put them into apple bins and place them in the shade so that they could try and replicate something of that sort of cooler maturation. But it's kind of hard. But even then, there isn't the knowledge and the research as to why certain varieties do well. Dabinet, the most sort of popular apple variety here from the big maker point of view, good tannins, and it grows really well and is loved by smaller cider makers as well for the intensity of flavor profile. The experience that I've had in various parts around the world is that it's not a great grower. It didn't really grow at all in Nelson in New Zealand. It was really poor, and certainly it's not one of the tannic apple varieties that seems to thrive in parts of North America. There are other varieties that seem to kind of do better. So it's one of the great challenges with cider is that it hasn't got the level of like investment and research into the raw materials that certainly grapes do and hop varietals do. So it's just going to be a case of a few more years worth of growing these varieties in different areas, more research, more recording, more understanding, and more blagging.
Big apples in the Big Apple. That's what we're saying. So
that's what we're talking about.
Thank you, Timmy. Tim, I noticed he called himself Tim, and we've all called him Timmy. So Timothy, thank you. From Gabe William, the fifth Minger. Minger is like, that's not a good compliment.
Was that I taught when we worked together in 2014, I was teaching him, not teaching him English, he can speak English, but teaching him some
also English. The conversations you had where you're like, no, that's not what a minger is. A minger is like a small redhead man who's blushed in the face when he gets a national question wrong. So
well, so there we go.
Somebody's blasting way out of it.
A suitably bonkers end to another wonderful show. It's massive thanks to Aaron and Scott from The National for a fantastic and amazing conversation. And well, look, this is a little sad, but there's only one episode left before season 1 of the Neutral Cider Hotel comes to an end. Next week, we're going to be speaking to Robbie Honda from Tannicky Cider in Santa Cruz. He's going to be on the show. We'll also talk about what's next up for the Neutral Cider Hotel, and we'll play our last few speak pipes for season 1. So if you want to chime in one last time, don't be mistaken for strangers and go to... Thank you. Speakpipe.com/Neutral Cider Hotel and leave us that message. We're going to play everything that you send us. We're going to play everything you send us, right? No, there's not going to be any filtering out at all. Send us your best. Send us your worst. Send us all you got.
No one's going to send us anything. So when we cut that bit, that's why. You'll know why now.
But until then, everybody, stay safe, be merry, and wassail!